Imagine a boy named Alex. Every morning feels like a bad day before it even starts. His alarm rings, beep, beep, he hits snooze again and again, and when he finally gets up, he is already angry. He goes to the kitchen, makes his coffee, and as he grabs the cup, hot coffee spills all over his shirt. "Great, just great," he shouts. He rushes to change his clothes, runs downstairs, and right when he reaches the bus stop, the bus drives away in front of him. He rolls his eyes and says, "This city is the worst. Nothing ever works for me." While he waits for the next bus, he opens his phone. The news is full of bad stories, people arguing, people losing jobs. Then he scrolls through social media and sees people on vacations, in new cars, smiling with their perfect lives. Alex feels something heavy in his chest and thinks, everyone else is happy. Only my life is bad. Have you ever felt like that? When one small problem in the morning makes you think your whole life is terrible. This story is about the day Alex decides to stop complaining and start growing, and how one small challenge slowly changes his life. Alex is not a superhero. He is a normal guy, just like many of us. He has an okay job, a place to live, friends who talk to him, a family that cares, but inside he still feels angry and stuck almost every day. From morning to night, his number one habit is not working, not learning, not laughing. His number one habit is complaining. At work, his team stands in a circle for the daily meeting. One teammate says, "I'm working on a new feature." Another one says, "Yesterday was hard, but I learned something cool." When it is Alex's turn, he takes a loud breath and says, "Honestly, these deadlines are stupid. The client doesn't know what they want, and our boss keeps changing everything. This project is a mess." The room gets quiet. Some people look down at their notebooks, some pretend to check their phones. They have heard this tone from Alex many times. Alex thinks he is just telling the truth, just being real, but deep inside he feels more and more tired of his own voice. At lunch, he sits with his friend Jordan. Jordan is not the kind of friend who just says, "Yeah bro, life sucks," and agrees with every complaint. Alex talks non-stop. Traffic is bad. The boss is unfair. The city is too expensive. The salary is too low. Nothing ever works. After a long rant, Alex stabs his food with his fork and says, "I'm so tired of this life. No matter what I do, nothing gets better." Jordan watches him quietly for a moment, and then says one simple line, "If complaining made people successful, you would be a millionaire by now." At first, Alex laughs, then his face changes. "What is that supposed to mean?" he asks. Jordan smiles gently and says, "I'm not saying your problems aren't real. I'm just asking, yesterday, how many times did you try to change something? And how many times did you just complain about it?" Alex doesn't have a clear answer, but his brain starts thinking. On the bus ride home, he replays his day like a movie. The coffee spill, the missed bus, the angry words in the meeting, the negative messages he sent in the group chat, the call with his family where he complained about the city again. For the first time, a new thought appears in his mind. Maybe life is not 100% against me. Maybe I make it feel worse with my words. That night, lying in bed, he picks up his phone and texts Jordan. "Okay, if complaining is the problem, what should I do? Just stay quiet and suffer?" A minute later, Jordan replies, "No. First, learn to notice it. Then we will choose a small step. Tomorrow, we start a little experiment." Alex feels a little scared and a little excited. He doesn't know it yet, but this small moment is the real beginning of his new journey. The moment he starts to move from, "I complain about everything," to "I will grow from everything." The next day at lunch, Jordan brings a small notebook and a pen. He puts them on the table in front of Alex and says, "Let's do a little test. Think about yesterday. From the time you woke up until you went to sleep. Every time you complained about something, I want you to write it down now." Alex rolls his eyes but starts writing. "Traffic," he writes. Then, boss, deadlines, company, city, weather, salary, my life. The list gets longer and longer, and the page starts to look crowded. Jordan doesn't say anything, he just waits. Finally, Alex stops and looks at the page. "Wow, that's a lot," he whispers. Jordan gently asks, "Now, next to each one, write what you actually did to change the situation." Alex looks at the list again. Most lines stay empty. For some, he writes, "Nothing." For one or two, he writes, "I sent a message," or "I tried a little." The difference is huge. The complaint side is full. The action side is almost blank. For the first time, Alex sees his day as a mirror. It is not just bad luck. It is a habit. A habit of talking instead of changing. Jordan taps the notebook and says, "Okay, so we proved one thing. You are very good at describing problems. Now let's see if you can become good at changing them." He takes off a simple rubber band from his own wrist and puts it in front of Alex. "This is your tool," he says. "We're going to do a 7-day no-complaint challenge." Alex laughs. 7 days? That's impossible. Jordan shrugs. "Maybe, but it will show you how strong the habit is and how strong you can be." He explains the rules slowly so Alex can't pretend he forgot. Rule 1. Wear the band on one wrist. Every time you complain out loud, you switch the band to the other wrist. Rule 2. When you notice a complaint in your head or from your mouth, you pause for 3 seconds and ask, "What is one small thing I can do?" Rule 3. Every night, before you sleep, you write down one win, one moment where you chose action instead of complaining. Alex turns the rubber band between his fingers. It sounds simple, almost silly, but deep inside, he knows it will not be easy. "Fine," he says. 7 days. Let's see what happens. That afternoon, Alex starts the challenge. The rubber band feels strange on his wrist, like a little watch staring at him. On the way home, a car cuts in front of the bus and everything slows down. His mouth opens to say, "These drivers are so stupid," but he catches himself. He remembers the rules. He pauses, counts silently. 1, 2, 3, and instead says nothing. The band stays where it is. It feels like a tiny victory. Later at home, his internet is slow. He feels the old anger rising up. "This Wi-Fi is trash," he almost shouts. Again, he stops, pause, label, swap. He quietly says to himself, "I feel frustrated because I can't relax right now." That is the label, frustrated. Then he swaps. Instead of complaining, he restarts the router and decides to use the waiting time to wash a few dishes. It isn't magic. The internet doesn't suddenly become perfect. But he notices something. When he chooses an action, his body feels lighter than when he just complains. That night, he opens his notebook and writes, "Win number 1. I caught myself twice. I stayed calm instead of exploding." Small, but different. For the first time, he goes to sleep feeling slightly proud, not just tired. The next day, Jordan shows him another tool. They sit at a small cafe, and Jordan draws 2 circles on a napkin. One small circle inside, one big circle outside. "This," he says, pointing to the small circle, "is your circle of control. Things you can directly decide. What time you wake up, how you speak, what you focus on, how hard you work." Then he taps the big circle. "This is your circle of concern. Things you care about but can't fully control. The weather, the economy, your boss's mood, traffic, other people's choices." Alex nods slowly. Jordan asks, "Now, think of your complaints from yesterday. Which circle were they about?" Alex thinks. The slow internet, the long line at the store, his coworker replying late. Almost all are in the big circle. "So," Jordan continues, "every time you complain, ask, am I shouting at the big circle or working inside the small one?" Alex tries it in his head with a new example. Traffic is terrible becomes, "I will leave 10 minutes earlier," or "I will use this time to listen to something useful." He understands that this doesn't make problems disappear. but it moves his energy from the outer circle, where he is powerless, to the inner one, where he can actually choose something. That simple picture stays in his mind like a logo. On day 1 and day 2 of the challenge, Alex feels like a baby learning to walk. He catches himself complaining out loud many times. Why is this line so long? Flip, why is this app so slow? Flip, the rubber band jumps from wrist to wrist. At first, it's annoying, but very quickly, he starts to notice complaining faster. On the morning of day 2, he wants to say, "This bus is always late," but stops and whispers, "I can't control the bus, but I can control my mood." He puts on his headphones and chooses a podcast about learning instead of scrolling angry news. On day 2 at work, an email from his boss comes in with extra tasks. His chest tightens. The old Alex would slam the keyboard and complain in the team chat. This time, he pauses and writes a simple, clear reply. "Got it. To make sure I do this well, which task should I do first?" His boss responds with a short list and a thanks. It's not a big moment, no music plays, nobody claps. But inside, Alex feels something shift. That night his win list has 2 lines. "I used bus time to learn, and I asked for clarity instead of complaining." 2 small choices, but both in his circle of control. On day 3, real life hits hard. Alex spends the whole morning working on a presentation he is proud of. He tries to be positive, catches his complaints, and even helps a coworker without grumbling. But in the afternoon, the manager looks at the slides and says, "We're going to change direction. This isn't what the client wants. Start over." For a second, Alex just stares at the screen. Then the volcano inside explodes. "Are you kidding me?" He shouts in his head. "I wasted hours. They never know what they want. This company is useless." He forgets the band, forgets the circles, forgets the pause. The words spill out in front of his teammate, and the rubber band snaps from one wrist to the other, so many times it almost hurts. On the bus ride home, he feels totally defeated. "See? Nothing works. This challenge is stupid. I'm just a negative person," he thinks. But when he tells Jordan what happened, he expects anger or a lecture. Instead, Jordan smiles kindly and says, "Good, now we have real data." Alex is confused. "Data?" Jordan nods. "Yes, we just learned when your habit is strongest. When you feel your effort is wasted, that's not a failure. That's a map. Now we know where to work." That night, instead of giving up, Alex opens his notebook and writes at the top of the page, "Why did this trigger me so much?" He answers honestly, "I hate feeling like my work doesn't matter. I feel small when people change things without asking me." Just writing this makes him feel a little calmer. Then he asks the next question, "What is one thing I can control in this situation?" He remembers the circles. He can't control the client. He can't control the manager's decision. But he can control how he responds now. The next morning, he goes to his manager and speaks clearly, not angrily. "I understand we have to change the direction," he says. "To do better this time, could we spend 10 minutes together so I fully understand what the client wants? That way I won't waste time on the wrong thing again." The manager looks surprised, then agrees. They sit, fix the goal, and break it into smaller steps. As Alex walks back to his desk, he feels something new, a sense of power, not over other people, but over himself. He writes a new sentence in his mind. "I can't control everything, but I can always choose my next move." By the end of the week, Alex is not a perfect person, but he is no longer the same constant complainer. He still has bad mornings. He still spills coffee sometimes. The bus is still late. The boss still changes plans now and then. Life on the outside looks almost the same. But on the inside, many small things have changed. On the bus, he listens to learning instead of angry news. In meetings, he asks for clarity instead of attacking. At home, when his family calls, he talks about what went right in his day before he mentions what went wrong. People around him notice that he is calmer, easier to be with. The rubber band moves less now. Some days, it stays on the same wrist all day, and that feels like a silent medal. One night, as he writes his win for the day, he realizes something big. I used to think my life was bad because of the world. But a lot of my pain came from my own words. He smiles at the notebook and writes one last line for the week. I can still grow, no matter what happens. It's a simple sentence, but for Alex, it feels like the start of a whole new story. That Sunday night, Alex sits on his bed with the small notebook in his hands. He flips through the pages and sees his own journey in simple lines. Day 1, I caught myself and stayed calm. Day 3, I exploded, but I learned why. Day 5, I asked for clarity instead of complaining. Each sentence is small, but together they tell a different story than the one he used to believe. Before, he thought, nothing ever changes. My life is just bad. Now he can see that things did change. Not because the world suddenly became perfect, but because he started choosing different reactions. He looks at the rubber band on his wrist and smiles. It's just a cheap band, but it became a little alarm for his words, a reminder that he always has a choice. He takes a deep breath and thinks, problems will still come. Traffic, deadlines, people, mistakes, they won't stop. But my constant complaining can stop. I can grow instead. Then he turns to you, the listener of this story. If you feel like Alex, always stuck, always complaining, maybe this is your moment too. You don't have to fix your whole life in one day. Just start with one small step. Catch one complaint, pause, and turn it into one action. Tonight, before you sleep, write one line in your own notebook. Today, I chose to grow instead of complain. That is how new stories begin.